All right, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. This is what we do, hanging out with you every morning on the Morning Pitt. You get your morning shave, you get your morning shower, you get your Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We've been spending this week here with Pitt off, just kind of talking about everything going on in the first half of the season. That's sort of been our theme this week. We talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. I think Monday we started off recapping the game against Virginia Tech. Oh, and talking about Israel Abanikanda and whether he should be a Heisman Trophy candidate, which a lot of people took as me asking that question seriously as opposed to just a jumping off point for a conversation about his performance. And then on Tuesday, we talked about offensive personnel. Yesterday, we talked a lot about the defense and whether Pitt's defense has been good enough. Tomorrow, we're going to have more sort of, first half of the season wrap up, second half of the season preview, because this is a perfect sort of midpoint. I think when I looked at the schedule right at the beginning of the season, I said, this is great. They got the off week, 6 games, off week, 6 games. I mean, it's the dead center of the season, and it's perfect timing for it. It'll give us a great opportunity to really recap the first half and preview the second half. And so that's what we've been doing this week. And we'll have a lot of that tomorrow as well. But for today, we have a special guest, and I'm really excited about this. I'm excited for you to hear from him. I think you're going to enjoy the conversation as much as I did. He's Pitt safety Brandon Hill. And Brandon joined us this week just to talk about all kinds of things. We talked about the first half of the season. We talked about his career at Pitt. Because if you remember Brandon Hill, right? First career start, 2020 at Florida State. All right, and Brandon and I will talk about this. But if you don't remember the context of this, okay, they were in a pretty bad way. They opened the season, 3-0. And then they lost to NC State, and they lost to Boston College, and then Kenny Pickett got hurt, and Joey Yellen started at Miami, and they lost that game. So now they're 3-0 down to 3-3. And then they come home and they play Notre Dame. And, I mean, you want to talk about one of the all-time great disasters in college football, or at least in Pitt football history. The Notre Dame game in 2020, like most of what happened in 2020, will be forgotten, as it should be. There's not much in 2020 that should be remembered. I went to a great Sturgill Simpson show right before the pandemic in 2020, and that was about all that I care to recall from that particular calendar year. But they played football, and that Notre Dame game really, I can't say it'll go down in history. It should go down the garbage disposal and never be spoken of again, because it was an abject disaster. At home in those awful gray uniforms, and they just got trashed up and down the field. And by the end of the game, Paris Ford had effectively left the team. I think later that week or a few days later or whatever it was, they had an off week. And I think, a few days later, he made it official that he was leaving the team, and it might have been probably shorter than that he decided. And so he was gone, so Brandon Hill had to step in as the starting boundary safety, taking over for Paris Ford. That's not easy. Paris Ford had a really good 2019. Not without its issues, but a really good 2019. And so Brandon Hill steps into that position. And pretty much, I think it was on Florida State's first series, Florida State quarterback tries to run. Brandon Hill misses the tackle. The guy goes 60 yards. Not a good start for Brandon Hill. But he rebounded. He bounced back, made a giant interception. I think took it all the way back, a pick six. And it's been all up from there. And he's played really well. And he finished the rest of that season. He was the starter last year at the boundary safety spot. He started this year. Dealt with some different injuries, but I think overall is one of the most reliable players on this defense. A really solid, good player for this defense. Not perfect, but nobody is. And is one of the rocks, the foundation of this, not rock, they call their scout team the Rocks. That's not what Brandon Hill is. He's not a scout team player. He's one of the foundational pieces of this defense, along with free safety Eric Hallett and the middle linebacker Savasier Dennis and Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle. That's Brandon Hill. And so I was really excited to chat with him because he's such an important player to this defense. He's such an important player to this team. He's a guy who's been around for 4 years. He originally signed in the class of 2019, and he was a pretty good get out of the Orlando area. He was a really good get for Pitt, and I think he was one that people were excited about. And so I was excited to talk to him. And so I'm going to give you that conversation. We don't always do these conversations or interviews or guests during the morning pit, but I thought this was a good one to kind of get your day started here on Thursday. So here he is, Pitt safety, Brandon Hill. And Brandon, thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad to catch up with you here on the off week. I know you probably are trying to take it as easy as possible. And I actually wanted to ask you that right off the bat. It is the off week. You guys have this break here, 6 games down, 6 games to go. You get this weekend off. You've been around for a few years. What's an off week look like for you guys? I mean, what's kind of your day to day, when you don't have a game on Saturday?
Yes, sir, most definitely. Being here off weeks for us is just resting the body, recovering. Coach Dudes always say we're gonna make sure you guys are fresh, so he makes sure we're fresh when we come for the following week after we get off the open week. But just catching up. Maybe some guys need to catch up on some classes. Just extra stuff we can do when we don't normally have the time for. So just really recovery though. Just make sure everybody's body is good for the next week because it's every week it's a battle every week. So just get this open week to rest the body, rest the muscles, and rest the legs too. So that does help a lot on the open week for sure.
Do you laugh when people talk about, hey, is this guy back to 100%? Because I think guys always say, like, by midseason, nobody's 100%,
And that's funny that you said that because I remember Coach Mike Staccatori, our head strength coach. I remember him saying, like when he first got here, he was like, I think it was right before camp started. He was like, this is the best your body's gonna feel for till the end of January. And ever since then, I've always just remember that back in my head, like your body's not gonna be 100 during the season, during camp, or even like when the season ends. You got that off season really gonna be the best time where your body is. So it may not be 100, but you can always go out there and give it all you got for sure.
Right. Now, do you guys practicing at all this week, or you pretty much have, like the whole week off until the weekend or next week when you jump back into it?
Yes, sir. Of course, we get some practices in because we don't want to be too far behind. So we don't get some practices in, keep the muscles going, keep the attention to detail up, but it's not going to be as equivalent to in week practice before a game. So we just been taking it light, but we're also preparing at the same time.
What's your focus this off week, Brandon? I mean, I'm sure the coaches have things they want you guys to work on. Everybody's kind of going, you go back to the drawing board a little bit, reset for the second half of the season. For you personally, what do you really want to focus on getting better for this second half, these next 6 games?
Yes, sir. My focus right now is just really, for me is, like I said, I know my body. So personally, my body for sure, because playing safety at University of Pittsburgh, everybody's gonna take a little beating after a couple games. But just making sure that's healthy and up to par, so I can be my best version of myself every Saturday. And I ain't gonna lie, schoolwork too. I'm not gonna lie, catching up on some work and just getting some classes, getting going there. I'm not gonna lie, I ain't gonna throw the school under the bus, but yes, catching up on some work for sure. Yes, sir.
You talk about playing safety. I feel like particularly that boundary safety spot. I mean, I remember Jordan Whitehead getting tons of tackles. Paris Ford, in 2019, I guess was his big year. That boundary safety spot is the one that really sticks its nose in there all the time. I mean, does that, as much as any position, I mean, maybe the linemen get the biggest beating, but I mean, do you feel like
yes, sir.
Boundary is maybe one of the most physical positions in this defense?
Yes, sir, most definitely. Outside of the trenches, the O-line and D-line, and I ain't a lot of linebacker. Our linebackers getting a lot of action too, though. But for sure, I feel like that boundary side of safety going, because in our defense, because the boundary side is usually helping in the run fit. So and that's what I played in high school. That's one of the reasons why I came here too. But just taking a lot of hits, a lot of tackles, not giving a lot of hits. Let me fix that. Giving out a lot of hits for sure. but just being all around safety. I love playing this defense though, for sure.
I've wondered about this. I mean, you've been in this defense for 4 years now, and I've wondered about it for the last 8 years or so. And I've asked different guys and I've gotten different answers. What do you think is the toughest position in this defense? I don't mean tough like physically, but the toughest position to master. I've always kind of felt like it's maybe the field safety or maybe the star linebacker. What do you I mean, are you just going to go right to the boundary safety, or what do you think is, what position, I guess I would say, has the most responsibility in this defense, or maybe is the toughest?
Okay. I'm not gonna lie, you hit it on the head with that field safety. For sure, you hit it on the head with that field safety, because out there it's really like you playing one-on-one 9 yards off. He can go either way. He can go outside, inside. He can go vertical. He can stop right there. And if he does, you got to drive it from 9 yards away. So I feel like field safety is one of the most difficult on our defense and probably the most responsibility too.
All right. So I was right. It was my
For sure. Yes, sir. You hit it on the head.
Right. Well, I mean, you and Eric have played together for a while now. You guys have a whole season starting together, a couple of games before that. Now, obviously, 6 games this year. How much do you guys are you at a point now where, I mean, you see the same things, you know, the same things, you guys are pretty much linked up back there?
Yes, I feel like we're at that point. And I feel like we've been at that point for a couple games now. And it's like you said, we're just in one motion out there. It's like we're one safety out there. I love playing with Eric. We communicate well on the field, and that's in practice too. Like in the locker room, our lockers are literally right next to each other. So we always have that conversation. Always just talking outside, in and outside, on and off the field. So playing with Eric has been just a blessing to be here at the University of Pittsburgh, because it just made my job so easier. Playing with a guy of that IQ level and just that intent just to want to get better every week. So I appreciate him, and I can't wait to see where the rest of the season leads us for sure.
So far through 6 games, when you look at it with the standards you guys have for yourselves on this Pitt defense, how would you sort of grade how you guys have done through 6 games so far?
I feel like we've been playing. We haven't played our best game yet, if that makes sense. But I feel like that's coming, and that's gonna, once it does, it's gonna be a repeat effect. It's gonna be a ripple effect. But nah, guys are coming out every week. We're playing hard. We're playing fast. We would like to have more turnovers going on the defensive side, but like I said, all of those are coming. I feel like we got a lot of guys that know what to do and want to get better. So once everything falls into place, once it really gets to falling into place, it's going to be a scary defense to watch. Going to get back to this Pitt defense, which I'm not saying that we're far off, but it's just some plays you would like to make on the field, and you know what you're capable of. Put it that way.
We know how much Coach Narduzzi emphasizes the run. I don't think there's anything more important to him than stopping the run. All the things you can do on a football field, offense or defense, that would be the one he would put at the very top of most important.
Yes, sir. Stop the run for sure.
Yeah. And he has said a few times that there have been points this season where he's not real happy with how that's gone. What have you seen out of the run defense? Where do you guys need to improve? Where have you had some of the holes so far, and what do you need to fix going forward?
Like I said, I feel like guys are playing fast. Guys are playing. They're hungry. I don't feel like there's any lack of effort out there. You all got to be on the same page. We all just gotta, every play you just gotta pay attention to the details. And maybe one play you might just forget about your time of that play, but all it takes is one play. So just make sure that everybody's on the same page every single play. And I feel like you'll see a difference in the run defense and the defense as a whole.
As you watch like younger guys, do you see that moment of realization when they figure out, oh, for 70 snaps, I have to be almost perfect to really make this work, like play after play after play? I mean, I sometimes think younger players probably think, oh, I'm all right. I can just kind of do my own thing. But definitely, you kind of have to figure that out, right?
Yes, sir, definitely, because you never know like what play is going to be your play. You never know. Like our DB coaches, Coach Sanders and Coach Collins always say, expect the ball is always coming to you. So when you're covered, expect the ball is always coming to you, even if it's not. So it's going to allow you to work on those fundamentals, allow you to always have that in the back of your head. Like, okay, this is how I got to play this ball. This is how I got to attack this route. This is how I got to take this angle. So just always remember that the ball's coming to you. There's always every play every play you think you're going to make it. Or just think something's going to come to you. Just always be ready for sure.
You when you first got to Pitt, I mean, you played a little bit, and then your first real playing time was that Florida State game in 2020. And I always think about that game because I feel like, real early in the game, maybe Florida State's first possession, their quarterback busted a long run, right? But and I mean, let's be honest, right? I think you whiffed on the tackle, right?
Yeah, for sure. That was on me. That was on me for sure.
But then, not that long after that, you got a pick 6, right? You got like a 50-yard. What do you remember about that game? I mean, the emotions, of maybe missing on a tackle for a long run and then turn around and making a huge play on defense all in the same game, maybe in the same half. I forget when the interception was, but I mean, what do you remember about that game down in Tallahassee?
Oh man, I remember everything about that game, about that day. It's a funny story because Florida State was actually my dream school, like in high school, like coming through middle school, all that. Florida State was my dream school. I was going to go to Florida State. So like And then I was happened to get my first collegiate start against Florida State. And yeah, like you said, I missed the tackle coming out. You feel me? First start, getting my feet wet. Took a bad angle, stopped my feet, let him take it. What was it? 80-yard touchdown, something.
It was far.
But you feel me? So I just had to just think to myself, like, okay, I'm here now. This is the moment. Like, let's not waste this moment. Let's just talk. Like, I think I had on turf tape. I had on eye black. I just took everything off. I just had to get focused. Like, I didn't need none of that extra stuff. And I just wanted to play. So I just had to focus on focus on my assignment every play. And it led me, it brought me closer to the ball. And then once I did that, I felt more comfortable. Like, once I got comfortable in the game and just comfortable being out there, because it's the same game. It's the same game from when you're 9 years old to when you're 30 years old. So just remember my fundamentals, remember why I'm here. And I just my teammates just helped me along too. They was encouraging me, you good, B, B Hill. And then we just got it along after that. So I remember everything about that game. My mom was there when I had the interception. She was in the stands, like at the stadium, and I was trying to throw it to her. But I guess that's a flag. I didn't know that at the time. That was a flag in college. My teammate trying to hold me back and stuff. So as soon as I got it, I tried to throw it at her. But yeah, I think DeMar had to pick that game. AJ had to pick that game. Yeah, we was making plays all over it was a fun day. It was a great day. Something I will always remember for sure.
Did Florida State did they recruit you at all, or did you ever hear much from them?
Nah, the crazy thing is, so like in 8th grade, like 8th to 7th grade, I went to the Jimbo Fisher. This is back when Jimbo Fisher was head coach. Jimbo Fisher Florida State camp, like a 3-day camp. My mom and Miss Julie, I had this lady, it's a family friend. Her name is Miss Julie. She helped me. She helped me, allow me to go to the 3-day camp back in 7th, 8th grade. So I went both years, and then I went, like, going into my 9th grade, I went to the Florida State camp again. And like, I think the DB coach remembered me, who I was, but they never like say nothing after that. I didn't get any like recruiting letters. Like I think they knew I had interest, but they didn't really show no interest. So I just kept, like I said, just kept playing high school. Got high school, just kept playing ball. And then once Pitt came, they showed love even before I had the offer. So yeah, so I don't regret this decision at all. I have no regrets and no doubts about my decision to come to Pitt for sure.
Well, it's funny, you were on that first official visit weekend when the NCAA first said that kids could take official visits in June. You were part of that first weekend with, like, you know, I wrote down the names, like Vincent Davis was there, Kalijah was there, Bryce Nelms, Davis Bevel, DeAndre Jules, Daniel Carter. All of you guys, like a big part of that class came from that first official visit weekend. Do you remember being in town that weekend in June? It was like 2018, so it's like 4 years ago. But
yeah,
meeting guys and kind of being around the group.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was 2019 when we first came. We first came was it 18? It was a year before.
Because you graduated in 19.
Yes. You're right. Correct. My bad. Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah, that day was like as soon as you get off the plane, they greeted me at the bus. I got to the bus, and all I remember is exiting the tunnel, just seeing the whole city of Pittsburgh open up. And then from that moment on, it was just like a family vibe, family atmosphere from the coaches, the staff, and even the guys from like that was on, like you said, I was on the visit from Florida, like Vince and Kalijah. We automatically meshed and gelled well together. But yeah, the city, even when we got here, the city of Pittsburgh showed us love. Like, it was just a good feeling. And like, the visit was great. I fell in love with the facility, fell in love with the coaching staff, the city, just the atmosphere. So yes, sir, the city was great. And it still is to this day.
Have you kind of adopted it as like a second home? I mean, is Pittsburgh your second?
Yeah, I have. It's something I had to get used to. Cause like I said, we first stayed on Bridges, where like, and in my room, like me, Sebastian and Daniel Carter, our room was like on face, like my window was facing the street, like the front street too. So like at night, I would just hear like sirens, people revving their engine, going fast, horns, stuff like that. So like the city was always like loud, and I had to get used to that because I didn't come from like a loud city, fast moving. So, and the cold too. It was cold when I first got up here. So, but when I got used to all that, just made that, like you said, my second home. I fell in love with the city. It had to grow on me though at first, but I fell in love with the city of Pittsburgh.
Right. Well, like we said, I mean, you were here in June of 2018 for your official visit. 4 years later, you got, 4.5, you got your years later, or I guess 3.5, you guys are down in Charlotte for the ACC championship game. And I wanted to ask you about that game because I feel like, I've talked about Pitt fans before. That was like one of the greatest nights for Pitt fans in like 40 years.
Sir.
You know what I mean? It was
yes, sir.
For a player, when you're at that point, you have that game. I think you guys stayed overnight that night. You didn't fly back, right? I mean,
yeah.
What was that night like? What was the day leading up to the game like? And then once you guys win it, what was that feeling like of really, finally winning that championship?
That day, that whole experience was amazing. It's because a lot of guys on the team never experienced something like that. And even if you haven't even won a championship in high school, to be in a championship game at that level, it's just amazing. Like just the atmosphere, just the people you're around, the people you meet, the fans, the Pitt fans came, they flew up too, they came to the game. So we had our support, our family members were able to come. And we was in a nice hotel, we living the life right now. So and then the experience was just amazing. It's something that you will never forget. And experience that with people that you gone through war with for 12 games before that, 11 games before that.
Mm-hmm.
And just makes it all the better. And then to win it, to finally have everything come together, because we preached about winning the AC championship back in camp, before camp started that year. So just to all see it finally come through, we knew the talent we had on the team. So it was just an amazing experience, and it was a humbling experience too, because of the stage and because of the magnitude that it was. Because you never want to take it for granted. So we were just all just soaking it in, soaking up the moment. And I don't know, I just remember everybody just being happy, just ready to play. There's all that. So mama came up, she was at the game. So it was just all in all a great experience.
I feel like Coach Narduzzi always talks about like a 24-hour rule. You guys have 24 hours to either enjoy a win or be mad about a loss, and then you got to move on. But when you win the championship game, right? Like you don't have to move on after 24 hours, right? You can sit with that for weeks, right?
Facts. For sure. We let that 24-hour rule exceed after that. We was happy for a couple of weeks after that. You feel me? Cause we still had the rings coming on the way. We knew that was coming. You feel me? It was way more than 24 hours that night. But that night it was a lot of people seeing their family, a lot of cheering, a lot of just smiling, laughing, guys hanging out with each other. I think we had it was this little room in the back in the hotel, and nobody was using it, but I think they use it for events. And then all the guys were just in there chilling, laughing. Some people was on the karaoke, singing and stuff. So we had a fun time that night. We was all together. Like I said, our parents and stuff was hanging out with us too during the karaoke and stuff. So family members. So it was great. Love to go back there for sure.
I'm not even going to ask about the karaoke. I feel like whatever happened in that room should just stay in that room. So I won't even. For
sure.
I do want two more for you before I let you go, Brandon. I wanted to ask about, you guys win that ACC championship game. Obviously, you have the experience of the Peach Bowl, but then the sort of 8 months after that. It was a crazy offseason just in college football, right? It was unlike anything we've ever seen with transfers and NIL and all of that. What was your experience through the offseason? Obviously we know, Jordan transferred to USC. Servassier said that he had sort of, people were trying to communicate with him about transferring. It's crazy stuff that we haven't really seen before. What was your experience and observations just from kind of living through those 6 or 7 months from January up until July, until the start of training camp?
Yeah, I remember this offseason because like you just said, people was actually quite asking me if I was going anywhere, if anybody was giving me anything, if I was gonna transfer out. I didn't talk to anybody. I love Pitt. I love Coach Narduzzi. I love what they do. I didn't have no reason to leave. You feel me? So, but my experience was just really learning at that point. Cause like you said, it's new. It's a new time for college football, college athletes. So you really don't know what you're getting yourself into unless you're really in it. So just sitting back and just learning, how things work, how to do things, what's the best way to do things. And like I said, just learning throughout the off season about the whole NIL experience, not really taking taking too much for granted either, and just exploring my opportunities for sure.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask you about is I know you're working with Alliance 412.
Yes, sir.
What have they been able to help you with, and how I know a couple of you guys are, Kalijah and Deslin,
Mm-hmm.
kind of working with them. How helpful is it to have a group like that, sort of a collective, to kind of help you navigate some of these things?
It's very helpful. Alliance 412, they do a great job helping guys like myself and Kalijah and Des just to get where our vision is. Like just to help us out along the way, because a lot of guys like myself, I'm first generation everything, first generation college student, person go to college and regardless. So just to have a support system like Alliance 412 and what such a great job they do, just to have them, and I can like hit them if I have any questions, if I need anything, or if I just whatever we can do. Because I know we had a project at the Ronald McDonald House, so just stuff like that, just to help us get our face out there, and just the ways we can give back to the community of Pittsburgh and just help. I can't thank them enough, for sure.
Sure. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's been great to chat with you today. I had a lot of fun. Enjoy the off week. Try and rest up, and good luck over these next 6 games. All right.
Yes, sir, Chris. I appreciate you reaching out. I did have an amazing time as well, for sure.
And thanks to Brandon Hill for joining us on the Morning Pit. It was a lot of fun to chat with him. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I didn't want to totally call him out on missing that tackle against Florida State. I was kind of like, let's call it what it is. You missed the tackle, and he did not shy away from it. And maybe if he didn't make the pick 6 in that game, he would have been less inclined to own up to it. But I appreciated how he kind of was like, I took off the turf tape and the eye black and all this other stuff. I just got down to playing football. I appreciate that. I appreciate when guys have that kind of insight, because what's always interesting to me, and I think it's particularly, like, I'm particularly interested in it because of covering recruiting, where I start talking to these guys when they're sophomores, juniors in high school, sometimes earlier, right? And you get to know them a little bit, and you talk to them when they're seniors in high school. And so by the time they get to their freshman year, you've already been talking to these kids for like 2 years, 3 years, and you kind of know them a little bit, and you see them coming in, and they went from being like the big man in high school, and now they're just a little freshman who has no idea what's going on. It's such a drastic transformation. And you see, you see it when they're on the field, you see it when they're walking around the locker room. They're freshmen. You don't know what a freshman looks like. But then they get a little older and a little older and a little older. And so a guy like Brandon Hill, I probably first interviewed Brandon Hill, I don't know, 2018, 2017, somewhere around this. I've probably been talking to that kid for about 4 or 5 years, following him for about 4 or 5 years and seeing him grow and develop. And, that's a crucial period of growth, of finishing high school and moving into college. It's a major 4 or 5 year period of development and growth. And so it's always interesting to hear those stories. Like, Brandon Hill says he went out there with all his eye black and his turf tape and all this stuff. He's all geared up and ready to go. And on, real early in the game, he misses a tackle and gives up a huge play and realizes, okay, stop. Let's get down. Let's focus on what's important. Focus on the work. Let's focus on the details and do what I know I need to do. And I wanted to ask him, but we got talking about some other topics in there. But I wanted to ask him if how often he passes along that kind of advice to the younger players, because the older players always intrigue me because they've been through all of that, and I always think they have to just laugh when they see some of these young guys come in and they're carrying themselves in a certain way, and you're an older player and you just say, you'll figure it out at some point. You'll understand that you don't even have any idea what you're talking about at all. And so I appreciate that. I think I definitely got that impression from Brandon Hill, and I think he strikes me as a great leader for this team, and somebody who I think is really valuable to this team. I don't know if he's going to come back for another season next year. He can if he wants. He can come back for 2 more, actually, because I think he's a redshirt junior right now. So next year he could come back as a redshirt senior and then potentially come back for a COVID year in 2024 or whatever that would be. My guess is he'll go to the NFL after this year, but who knows? We'll find out. I'm sure he'll make that decision after the season. But a very valuable player to this team, both in what he offers on and I think off the field. I think you could get that sense from him of what he offers off the field and the kind of person he is. And I was texting with someone the other day. I was saying, yeah, I'm going to talk to Brandon. And he said, just a real classy young man. And I agree about that. I think, you want to get a sense of the character of this team. You talk to guys like him, or you talk to Servassier Dennis, you talk to Kalijah Cansey or Deslin Alexander. We had a conversation with Deslin Alexander a few weeks ago, and just very classy, high character guys. That you have a lot of respect for, and definitely have a lot of respect for Brandon Hill. So thanks to him for joining us. We really appreciate that, and it was a great conversation. Really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Remember to subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You can turn on notifications so you always get an alert every time we post a new video or we go live, either with our Wednesday night live show or our post-game shows on Saturdays after the games. And then also make sure you like this video. We really appreciate that. It makes me feel much better when you do that. So like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. You can find it all at Panther-Lair.com, and message boards where you can go talk about this interview. You just watch that interview with Brandon Hill, you listen to that interview with Brandon Hill, you want to go talk to other people about it. Hey, did you guys check out that Brandon Hill interview? Wow, really interesting guy. I liked when he said this, or I liked when he said that. That's what you can do at Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com. The message boards, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. So make sure you go there, check that out. Like I say, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like this video. We really appreciate it. Hope you've had a great week so far. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, Friday morning, for the final Morning Pit of the week, right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.